Park Nara rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the exam paper again. The words seemed to blur together after 3 straight days of studying. She had not slept well in weeks. The final exam for Advanced Military Strategy was the most important test of her life at the Terran Military Academy. The exam room was quiet except for the soft hum of air filters. 50 other students sat at their desks, all working on the same problem. The question was simple but hard. Design a plan to defend a planet that has worse technology than the enemy. The enemy comes from space and wants to take over your world? Nara stretched her neck and cracked her knuckles. She had studied this kind of problem many times. Her professors always said to think about what resources the defending planet had. They taught students to use the environment and make the enemy fight, where they did not want to fight. She opened her computer and went to find her study notes. Her fingers moved quickly on the keyboard. She had written so many practice answers for questions like this. All her files looked the same when she was this tired. Nara found a file that looked right and opened it. The document was long and detailed. Good, she thought. This must be one of her better practice answers. She did not read it carefully. There was no time. The exam would end in 2 hours, and she still had 3 more questions to answer. She copied the entire document into her exam answer box. The file was much longer than her usual work, but maybe that was better. Her professors always said more detail was better than less detail. Dr. Kim Tiemann walked between the rows of desks. He taught advanced military strategy and had been a real soldier before becoming a teacher. Students respected him because he had fought in the border wars 20 years ago. He knew what real fighting looked like. Nara finished copying her answer and moved to the next question. She felt good about her first answer. The document had been very detailed. It talked about supply lines and enemy weaknesses and how to use different types of weapons. She did not remember writing something so complete, but she must have worked on it during one of her late study nights. The exam ended 3 hours later. Nara left the room feeling tired but hopeful. She had answered all the questions. Her first answer had been especially long and detailed. Now she could finally sleep. Dr. Kim collected all the exam files and went back to his office. He had been teaching for 15 years and had read thousands of student answers. Most were basic and used the same ideas from the textbook. Students usually wrote about hiding in mountains or using hit-and-run attacks. The answers were correct but not creative. He decided to read a few exams before going home. The first few were exactly what he expected. Students wrote about using forests to hide from enemy ships and attacking supply convoys. These were good answers but nothing special. Then he opened Park Nara's exam. He knew Nara was a good student but not the best in the class. She worked hard but sometimes seemed tired in class. Her previous work had been solid but not amazing. Her answer to the first question made him stop reading and start over. The document was incredible. It was not just a good answer. It was a perfect answer. It was better than perfect. It was the kind of answer that a real general might write. The answer knew things that students should not know. It talked about specific types of alien ships and how their shields worked. It mentioned trade routes between star systems that were not in any textbook. It described the politics between different alien races in detail that seemed too real to be made up. Dr. Kim read the answer 3 times. Each time he found new details that impressed him. The student had created an entire fake universe with different alien species. Each species had its own military style and weaknesses. The level of detail was amazing. The answer described something called stealth reconnaissance networks that could watch enemy movements without being seen. It talked about deep space early warning systems that could detect ships months before they arrived. These were not ideas from the textbook. These were new ideas. Most impressive was how the answer connected everything together. It was not just a list of good ideas. It was a complete plan that covered every part of defending a planet. It talked about space battles, ground fighting, supply problems, and even how to keep people calm during the war. Dr. Kim had never seen a student answer like this. He had seen professional military reports that were not this good. The answer showed understanding of warfare that went far beyond what they taught in school. He wondered how Park Nara had learned so much. Maybe she had military family who taught her things not in books. Maybe she had access to advanced military databases. Or maybe she was just naturally gifted at strategy. The more he read, the more excited he became. This was the kind of work that other teachers needed to see. This was the kind of creative thinking that could change how they taught military strategy. Dr. Kim decided to send the answer to his colleague at the Galactic Educational Exchange Program. The program shared interesting student work with other schools across the galaxy. This answer would show alien educators how creative human students could be. He wrote a message to Dr. Chun Mai-Ray at the exchange program. I have found an exceptional piece of student work. This is the theoretical military strategy at its finest. The student has created an incredibly detailed and realistic scenario. I believe this demonstrates the high quality of human military education. Dr. Kim attached Nara's answer and sent the message. He felt proud to have such a talented student. He made a note to talk to Nara about her excellent work when grades were posted. Meanwhile, Nara was sleeping deeply for the first time in weeks. She did not know that her tired mistake had just sent a classified Earth Defense Force document to alien governments across the galaxy. She did not know that her exam answer contained real intelligence about actual alien military capabilities. The document she had accidentally submitted was not her study notes. It was document #EDF-classified-7749, Operation Prometheus, Earth's Contingency, Plan for First Contact Hostilities. The file had been in her computer because her mother, Admiral Lee Soyoung, had used Nara's computer to work from home the previous weekend. The document contained 50 years of secret intelligence about alien civilizations. It described real alien military forces, actual trade routes, and genuine political tensions between species. It was one of the most classified documents in Earth's military database. In her exhaustion, Nara had sent humanity's greatest secrets to an alien educational program. She had revealed that Earth knew far more about galactic civilization than anyone suspected. She had accidentally started a chain of events that would change human history forever, but for now, she slept peacefully, dreaming of finally being done with her hardest exam. 3 days later, Park Nara woke up to 17 missed calls on her phone. All the calls were from Dr. Kim Tiemann. She looked at the time and realized she had slept for almost 14 hours. Her body had finally caught up on all the sleep she had missed during exam week. She called Dr. Kim back, expecting to hear about her exam grades. Instead, his voice sounded strange and excited. Nara, I need you to come to my office right away. Bring your student ID and any notes you used for the first exam question. Is something wrong with my answer? Nara asked. She felt worried. Maybe she had made a big mistake. Just come quickly. And Nara, do not talk to anyone about your exam until we meet. Nara got dressed and walked across campus to the military building. Other students were enjoying their free time after exams, but she felt nervous. Dr. Kim had never sounded so serious before. When she arrived at his office, Dr. Kim was not alone. A woman in a military uniform sat in the corner. The uniform had more decorations than Nara had ever seen. The woman looked familiar, but Nara could not remember where she had seen her before. Sit down, Nara, Dr. Kim said. This is Admiral Lee Soyoung from Earth Defense Force Command. Nara's heart stopped. Admiral Lee was her mother, but they had agreed to keep their family relationship secret at school. Military families often kept work and school separate. But why was her mother here about an exam? Admiral Lee wants to ask you about your exam answer, Dr. Kim continued. Your work has received a lot of attention. Admiral Lee looked at her daughter with an expression Nara had never seen before. It was not anger, but it was not happiness either. It was something like fear mixed with amazement. Nara, Admiral Lee said carefully, where did you get the information for your first exam answer? I used my study notes. Why? Was there something wrong? Dr. Kim pulled out a printed copy of her answer. Nara, This is not study notes. This is the most detailed and accurate piece of military analysis I have ever read. You describe alien military capabilities with perfect accuracy. You mention specific ship designs and weapon systems. Details about galactic politics that are not in any textbook. Nara looked at the papers he handed her. As she read, her face went white. This was not her study notes. This was not anything she had written. She recognized the document now. It was one of the files her mother had been working on last weekend. "Oh no," Nara whispered. "Oh no, oh no." "What is it?" Dr. Kim asked. Admiral Lee answered for her daughter. She accidentally submitted a classified Earth Defense Force intelligence report, one of our most sensitive documents. Dr. Kim's mouth fell open. "This is real? These alien species are real? The ship designs and battle tactics are real?" "Every word," Admiral Lee said. "And thanks to the educational exchange program, copies of this document are now being studied by xenobiologists and military analysts on 12 different worlds." The room was quiet for a long moment. Nara felt sick to her stomach. She had made the biggest mistake in human history. "How bad is this?" she asked quietly. Admiral Lee stood up and walked to the window. "The document contains intelligence we have gathered over 50 years of secret observation. It describes the military capabilities of every major galactic power. It reveals that we know about their trade routes, their political problems, and their technological weaknesses." "But that's good information to have, right?" Dr. Kim asked. "It's good information to have secretly," Admiral Lee explained. "The problem is that now they know we have it. For 50 years, we have pretended to be a primitive planet that knows nothing about galactic civilization. We have let them think we are weak and ignorant while we quietly gathered intelligence." She turned back to face them. "Now they know we have been watching them. They know we understand their military capabilities better than they thought possible. They know we are not the simple, backward species they believed us to be." Dr. Kim looked confused. "But surely they will be impressed by human intelligence and strategic thinking?" "Some will be impressed," Admiral Lee said. "Others will be terrified. And some will be angry that we have been spying on them for decades while pretending to be harmless." Nara finally found her voice. "What happens now?" "Now we wait to see how the galaxy reacts to learning the truth about humanity," her mother replied. "Your exam answer has already been translated into 17 different languages. Military academies across the galaxy are studying it. Some species are calling it proof of human genius. Others are calling it evidence of human deception. The Hegemony Council has requested an explanation," Admiral Lee continued. "The Trade Consortium wants to know how we learned about their supply problems. The Stellar Assembly is asking if we have been infiltrating their space." Dr. Kim sat down heavily in his chair. "I sent this to the educational exchange program because I thought it showed how creative human students could be. I thought it was fiction." "It's not your fault," Admiral Lee said. "The document should not have been on a student computer. That's a security failure on our part. So what do we do?" Nara asked. "First, we prepare for the possibility of direct contact," Admiral Lee said. "For the first time in human history, we may have to openly communicate with galactic civilization. Your exam answer has made it impossible to continue pretending we know nothing about them. Second, we hope that they see this as evidence of human strategic capability rather than human threat. The document shows we are good at defense planning, not aggressive conquest. And third," Admiral Lee looked directly at her daughter, "we figure out how to turn this mistake into an opportunity." Dr. Kim asked. "How can this be an opportunity?" "Think about it," Admiral Lee said. "We have spent 50 years gathering intelligence while staying hidden. But hiding has costs. We cannot trade with galactic civilization. We cannot learn from their science. We cannot make alliances for protection. Maybe it's time for humanity to step out of the shadows. Your exam answer proves we can compete intellectually with any species in the galaxy. It shows we understand warfare and strategy as well as anyone." Nara was still trying to process everything. So I might have accidentally ended human isolation. From the galaxy? You might have, Admiral Lee said. And that might be the best thing that could have happened to our species. Outside the office window, the normal sounds of campus life continued. Students walked to class, studied in the library, and worried about normal things like grades and career choices. None of them knew that human history had just changed forever because of one tired student's mistake, but in the deeper levels of Earth Defense Force headquarters, emergency meetings were already beginning. Plans that had been theoretical for decades were suddenly becoming very real. Humanity was about to discover if they were ready to join galactic civilization, or if galactic civilization was ready for humanity. Commander Veltar of the Hegemony Defense Council was having a normal day when the message arrived. He was reviewing supply reports for the outer Rim Patrol fleets when his aide brought him a data tablet with an urgent priority marker. Commander, this came through the educational exchange channels. It's marked as a human academic exercise, but the intelligence division wants you to see it immediately. Veltar took the tablet without much interest. Human academic work was usually amusing, but not important. Humans were a young species that had barely discovered faster-than-light travel. Their military thinking was primitive, but sometimes creative in unexpected ways. He started reading the document, and his casual interest quickly turned to alarm. The human student had written a detailed analysis of defending a planet against hypothetical space invasion. But the analysis was not hypothetical at all. It described real hegemony military tactics with perfect accuracy. The document knew that. Hegemony battle fleets used a standard formation of 12 heavy cruisers surrounding 3 battleships. This information was not public knowledge. It was barely known outside the Hegemony Military Command, but the human document went further. It described weaknesses in the formation that even some Hegemony officers did not understand. It explained how the standard battle formation left the command. Ships vulnerable to attacks from below the orbital plane. This was a classified tactical problem that the Hegemony had been trying to solve for years. Veltar read more carefully. The document described the exact specifications of Hegemony shield technology. It knew that the shields were weaker against certain frequencies of energy weapons. It knew about the power supply problems in the newest battleships. It even knew about recent changes to fleet organization that had happened only 3 months ago. This was not student imagination. This was military intelligence. Detailed, accurate, classified military intelligence. Veltar called his aide immediately. Contact Intelligence Division. Tell them we have a priority security issue. Then get me a direct connection to the Stellar Assembly Council. Meanwhile, on the trade world of New Prosperity, Counselor Nixara of the Stellar Assembly was reading the same document. As the head of Galactic Security Coordination, she received copies of all potentially sensitive communications between species. Nixara had been in charge of galactic security for 30 years. She had seen every kind of intelligence operation and military deception. She knew the difference between good guessing and actual knowledge. The human document was actual knowledge. It described internal Stellar Assembly politics with embarrassing accuracy. It knew about the secret trade disputes between the Assembly and the Trade Consortium. It knew about military agreements that were not supposed to exist. Most disturbing, it knew about Operation Quiet Harbor, the Assembly's plan to secretly establish monitoring stations near primitive worlds. The plan was known to only 7 people in the entire galaxy. Now it was described in detail in a human student's homework assignment. Nixara sent urgent messages to every major galactic power. Within hours, she had responses from the Hegemony, the Trade Consortium, the Synthesis Alliance, and a dozen smaller governments. Everyone had the same question: how did humans know so much? The Trade Consortium's response was especially worried. The human document described their supply chain problems with detailed accuracy. It knew which trade routes were vulnerable to piracy. It knew about their financial difficulties and political problems with their member worlds. Trade Consortium Director Quindal sent a message to all council members. Either humans have the most sophisticated intelligence network in galactic History, or they have analytical abilities that exceed our understanding? Both possibilities require immediate investigation. The Synthesis Alliance had a different concern. The human document described their military technology in ways that suggested deep understanding of how their weapons worked. This was technology they had developed in secret over hundreds of years. Alliance Science Director Turan was especially puzzled by one section of the document. The human student had written about weaknesses in synthesis energy shields that the Alliance themselves had only discovered 6 months ago. The research was so secret that only the lead scientists knew about it. How can a primitive species understand our technology better than we do? Turan asked in his report to the Alliance Council. On the neutral world of Haven Station, galactic diplomats began emergency meetings. The human document had been sent to educational institutions across the galaxy. Thousands of scientists, teachers, and students had already read it. Ambassador Kreshtai of the Diplomatic Corps called for an immediate investigation. We have 3 possibilities, she told the emergency session. First, humans have been conducting massive intelligence operations against every major galactic power for unknown years. Second, humans have analytical capabilities that allow them to deduce classified information through pure logic. Third, this is the most elaborate deception in galactic history. All 3 possibilities are disturbing, replied Ambassador Zephyros of the Neutral Zone Authority. If humans can gather this much intelligence while appearing primitive, what else can they do? If they can analyze our weaknesses this well, are they a threat? If this is deception, what is their real purpose? The emergency session continued for hours. Representatives from 23 different governments attended. Everyone had the same questions and no one had good answers. The most worried species was the hegemony. As the largest military power in the galaxy, they had the most to lose if humans were actually a threat. The human document had revealed hegemony, military secrets that could be used against them in war. Commander Veltar presented his analysis to the Hegemony Council. The human document shows understanding of our military capabilities that equals or exceeds our own understanding. If humans are hostile, they have advantages we did not know they possessed. If they are friendly, they have capabilities we severely underestimated. What do you recommend? Asked Hegemony Prime Leader Korthval. Direct contact, Veltar replied. We need to know what humans really are. We need to know how they got this information, and we need to know what they plan to do with it. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Every major power was reaching the same conclusion. Humanity could not be ignored anymore. The humans had been dismissed as a primitive, isolated species with no real importance to galactic civilization. They lived on one small world at the edge of explored space. They had no significant technology, no powerful military, and no influence on galactic politics, but the student document changed everything. It proved that humans understood galactic civilization far better than anyone had imagined. It showed that they had been quietly gathering intelligence, while everyone ignored them. Within 24 hours of the document's discovery, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. For the first time in 300 years, all major galactic powers agreed on something. They needed to talk to humanity immediately. The age of human isolation was about to end. One student's accidental mistake had forced the entire galaxy to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the small blue world on the rim of known space, and on Earth. Admiral Lee Soyoung was preparing for the most important conversation in human history. The ship appeared above Earth on a Tuesday morning without any warning. It was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long, and unlike anything humanity had ever built. Silver and blue lights ran along its hull in patterns that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. At the North American Aerospace Defense Command, alarms began ringing immediately. General Cho Min-ho, the head of Earth's defensive forces, watched the displays with growing amazement. The ship had appeared instantly, without any sign of approach or acceleration. One moment the space above Earth was empty, and the next moment, the alien vessel was there. Are we under attack? Asked Colonel Park Jae-in, the duty officer. I don't think so, General Cho replied. If they wanted to attack, they wouldn't need to appear so close to the planet. They could destroy us from much farther away. The ship began broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously. The message was simple and came in perfect English. This is the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge of the Galactic Council. We request immediate communication with the government of Earth regarding a matter of urgent importance. General Cho had been preparing for this moment his entire career. Earth's military had plans for first contact with alien civilizations, but they had expected more warning. They had expected to see alien ships coming from far away. They had not expected aliens to simply appear above their planet. He opened a communication channel. This is General Cho Minho of Earth Defense Forces. We acknowledge your presence and request you maintain current position while we contact our leadership. We will comply, came the alien response. We wish to speak with the author of document EDF classified 7749, as well as your military and political leadership. General Cho felt his blood turn cold. They knew about the classified document. They knew its exact designation number. This was not a casual first contact visit. This was about Park Nara's exam mistake. Within 2 hours, the most important people on Earth were gathered in the secure conference room beneath the United Nations building in New York. President Yang Mirei sat at the head of the table, with Admiral Lee Soyoung to her right and General Cho to her left. Also at the table were Foreign Minister Kim Dong-woo, Defense Secretary Lee Hun-soo, and the directors of Earth's major intelligence agencies. At the far end of the table, looking very small and very scared, sat Park Nara. President Yang had insisted that Nara be present. She started this situation, the president had said. She should be part of resolving it. The aliens had agreed to meet in person. A small shuttle had descended from their ship and landed at a secure military base outside the city. The alien delegation was being escorted to the UN building under heavy security. What do we tell them? Asked Foreign Minister Kim. The truth, Admiral Lee replied. They already know most of it. The document Nara accidentally sent contains 50 years of our intelligence gathering. They know we have been watching them. But do we tell them everything? Asked Defense Secretary Lee. Do we reveal the full extent of our capabilities? General Cho looked at the intelligence report spread across the table. Earth's actual defensive capabilities were far beyond what the leaked document revealed. The stealth ships, the advanced weapon systems, the orbital platforms, none of that was in the document Nara had sent. We tell them enough, President Yang decided. We tell them we have been observing galactic civilization to prepare for eventual contact. We tell them we are defensive, not aggressive. We see how they respond. An aide entered the room and whispered to General Cho. He nodded and stood up. The alien delegation has arrived, he announced. 3 individuals from different species. They are being escorted to the main conference room. President Yang straightened her jacket and took a deep breath. Let's make history. The main conference room had been modified for the meeting. The table was arranged so that humans and aliens could sit across from each other comfortably. Translation equipment had been set up. Though the aliens had said they spoke perfect English, the alien delegation entered the room and Nara gasped quietly. She had seen pictures of aliens in the classified files, but seeing them in person was completely different. The first alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. This was Commander Veltar of the Hegemony. The second was shorter and covered in what looked like green scales. This was Counselor Nixara of the Stellar Assembly. The third was the most unusual, a being that seemed to be made of shifting silver, light in a roughly humanoid shape. This was Ambassador Quindile of the Trade Consortium. Commander Veltar spoke first. We thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We come representing the major powers of galactic civilization. We are here because of this document. He placed a copy of Nara's exam answer on the table. We know it was submitted accidentally, Counselor. Nixara added, but accidents can sometimes reveal truths that were meant to stay hidden. President Yang nodded. We acknowledge that the document contains sensitive information. We are prepared to discuss the situation openly. Ambassador Quindle's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. The document demonstrates knowledge of our civilizations that should be impossible for your species to possess. We need to understand how you obtained this information. Admiral Lee leaned forward. For over 50 years, Earth has been quietly observing galactic civilization. We have used advanced stealth technology to monitor trade routes, diplomatic communications, and military activities. You have been spying on us, Commander Veltar said. It was not a question. We have been learning about you, General Cho replied. When a species first encounters galactic civilization, they must make a choice. They can announce themselves immediately and hope for peaceful contact. Or they can watch and learn first to understand what they are dealing with. We chose to watch and learn, President Yang continued. We wanted to understand galactic politics, military capabilities, and cultural differences before revealing ourselves. We wanted to be prepared. Counselor Nixara studied the humans carefully. Your document shows more than simple observation. It shows analysis and strategic thinking that rivals our best military minds. It reveals weaknesses in our forces that some of us did not know we had. That is what concerns us, Commander Veltar added. Either your species has natural strategic abilities that exceed our own, or you have been gathering intelligence for hostile purposes. Nara finally found the courage to speak. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was just tired and I grabbed the wrong file. I thought I was submitting my study notes. The aliens looked at her with interest. Ambassador Quindle asked, "You are the author of this analysis?" "No," Nara replied quietly. "I am the student who accidentally sent it. The real analysis was written by our military intelligence teams over many years. So this document represents the collective intelligence efforts of your entire species?" Counselor Nixara asked. Admiral Lee nodded. "It represents decades of careful observation and analysis. We have been preparing for the day when we would need to interact with galactic civilization. And what are your intentions now that this day has arrived?" Commander Veltar asked. President Yang looked around the table at her advisors, then back at the aliens. "Our intentions are peaceful. We seek trade, knowledge exchange, and mutual defense agreements. We have no desire for conquest or expansion beyond our own solar system." "But you have capabilities we did not expect," Ambassador Quindle observed. "If you can gather this much intelligence without being detected, what else can you do?" General Cho made a decision. "We can show you if you are willing to see. We can demonstrate that our capabilities are defensive, not offensive." The aliens looked at each other in ways that seemed to involve more than just visual communication. Finally, Commander Veltar spoke for the group. "We are willing to see, but understand that the galaxy is watching this meeting. How we resolve this situation will determine humanity's place in galactic civilization." President Yang smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "Then let's show you what humanity is really capable of." President Yao Mirai stood up and walked to the large display screen at the end of the conference room. "What I'm about to show you will change how you see humanity's place in the galaxy. Admiral Lee, please begin the presentation." Admiral Lee activated her control tablet and the screen came to life. The first image showed a map of local space with Earth at the center. Dozens of small dots appeared around the solar system, each one blinking softly. "These are humanity's deep space monitoring stations," Admiral Lee explained. "We have 47 platforms positioned throughout this region of space. They have been operating for 35 years without being detected by any galactic power." "Commander." Veltar leaned forward, studying the display. "Those positions. They cover all the major hyperspace routes to Earth. You would see any approaching fleet weeks before arrival." "That was the idea," General Cho confirmed. "We needed early warning if anyone decided to visit us before we were ready." The display changed to show technical specifications of the monitoring stations. The aliens studied the information with growing amazement. The human technology was not just advanced, It was specifically designed to be undetectable by galactic sensors. Your stealth technology is beyond anything we have seen, Counselor Nixara admitted. How did you develop such sophisticated systems? We had good teachers, Admiral Lee replied with a slight smile. Every piece of alien technology that crashed on Earth, every probe that malfunctioned in our solar system, every damaged ship that drifted too close, we studied it all. Ambassador Quindle's light form flickered with what might have been surprise. You reverse-engineered our technology? We learned from your technology, President Yang corrected. We took the basic principles and developed our own solutions. Human engineering approaches things differently than most galactic species. The display showed a new image, a detailed schematic of a human stealth ship. The design was clearly based on alien technology, but modified in ways that made it uniquely human. We have been operating a fleet of reconnaissance ships for 28 years, Admiral Lee continued. They have visited every major trade route and political center in this region of the galaxy. They have observed fleet movements, recorded diplomatic communications, and analyzed military exercises. You have ships that can reach our territory without being detected? Commander Veltar asked, his voice tense. We have ships that have already been to your territory many times, General Cho replied calmly. Ship designation HSS Silent Observer spent 3 months stationed near Hegemony Central Command last year. Ship designation HSS Deep Watcher has been monitoring Trade Consortium supply routes for 5 years. The room was completely quiet. The aliens exchanged glances that seemed to carry volumes of unspoken communication. Admiral Lee changed the display again. This time it showed a massive database interface with thousands of files and categories. This is the Prometheus Archive, she explained. It contains detailed intelligence on every major galactic power, including military capabilities, political structures, economic systems, and cultural characteristics. The document that Nara accidentally sent was a small summary taken from this database. How much information do you have? Counselor Nixara asked quietly. Complete fleet compositions for all major powers, Admiral Lee replied, reading from her tablet. Trade route maps and cargo manifest, diplomatic communications going back 15 years, technical specifications for most common ship designs, political profiles of important leaders, economic analysis of all major civilizations. She paused and looked directly at the aliens. We know about the secret meetings between the Hegemony and the Synthesis Alliance. We know about the Trade Consortium's financial problems. We know about the Stellar Assembly's plans to expand into the neutral zones. Ambassador Quindle's form began shifting more rapidly. You know about the financial crisis? We know that the Trade Consortium has been hiding massive losses for 3 years, Admiral Lee confirmed. We know about the disagreements between your member worlds. We know about the secret loans from the Hegemony banks. Commander Veltar stood up abruptly. This is impossible. That information is classified at the highest levels. Your communication? Networks are not as secure as you think, General Cho said. When you assume that primitive species cannot intercept your messages, you become careless about encryption. President Yang gestured for everyone to remain calm. We are not telling you this to threaten you. We are telling you this to demonstrate that humanity has been preparing for galactic contact with the same thoroughness that we apply to everything else. But why reveal this now? Counselor Nixara asked. You could have continued spying on us indefinitely. Because Nara's mistake has made continued secrecy impossible, Admiral Lee replied. You already suspect we have advanced intelligence capabilities. Attempting to hide them now would only make us look deceptive. Nara, who had been sitting quietly through the entire presentation, finally spoke up. I'm sorry I caused all this trouble. Ambassador Quindle turned toward her. Do you understand what your mistake has accomplished? I revealed military secrets and started a diplomatic crisis, Nara replied uncertainly. You forced 2 civilizations to be honest with each other, the alien ambassador said. Your accident may be the best thing that has happened to human galactic relations. President Yang looked surprised. How do you mean? Commander Veltar sat back down and seemed to relax slightly. For 50 years, we have watched humanity develop on what we thought was an isolated world. We saw you as primitive but potentially useful allies. We made plans for how to incorporate your species into galactic civilization when you were ready. Those plans assumed you were naive and technologically inferior, Counselor Nixara added. We thought we would be teaching you about the galaxy. We never imagined you had been studying us for decades. Now we know the truth, Ambassador Quindle continued. Humanity is not a primitive species waiting to be educated. You are a sophisticated civilization that chose to remain hidden while gathering intelligence. You are already players in galactic politics. You just played from the shadows. General Cho leaned back in his chair. So how does this change things? It changes everything, Commander Veltar replied. We can no longer treat humanity as a junior species that needs guidance. We must treat you as equals who have been watching and learning and preparing. Your intelligence capabilities alone make you valuable allies, Counselor Nixara said. But your analytical abilities, the way you can deduce weaknesses and connections that we miss, that makes you potentially invaluable. President Yang smiled. So you are not here to punish us for spying? We are here to negotiate with you as equals, Ambassador Quindle replied. The age of human isolation is over. The question now is what kind of relationship we will build. Admiral Lee saved her presentation and closed the display. What do you propose? Full diplomatic recognition, Commander Veltar said immediately. Trade agreements, technology exchange, mutual defense treaties. And intelligence sharing, Counselor Nixara added. Your analytical capabilities combined with our resources could benefit everyone. In return, Ambassador Quindle said, we offer humanity full membership in galactic civilization. Access to our markets, our knowledge, our trade routes. President Yang looked around the table at her advisors. They had spent decades preparing for this moment, but it was still surreal to be negotiating humanity's place in the galaxy. We accept, she said simply, but we have one condition. The aliens waited. We do this gradually, President Yang continued. Humanity needs time to adjust to galactic civilization. Our people need to be prepared for contact with multiple alien species. We cannot change everything overnight. Agreed, Commander Veltar said, but the process starts now, today. General Cho stood up and extended his hand to the hegemony commander. Welcome to Earth. Commander Veltar looked at the offered hand, then reached out and shook it firmly. Welcome to the galaxy. News of humanity's true capabilities spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within hours of the diplomatic meeting on Earth, emergency sessions were being called on dozens of worlds. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive? Backwater dwellers were frantically reassessing everything they thought they knew. On the hegemony capital world of Dominion Prime, military planners worked through the night recalculating threat assessments. General Korthvul, the hegemony's supreme military commander, stared at star charts that suddenly looked completely different. Show me again, he ordered his aide, Captain Mexter. Human stealth ships have been operating in our territory for over 2 decades, Captain Mexter reported. They have observed our fleet exercises, recorded our tactical communications, and analyzed our defensive positions. They know our capabilities better than some of our own officers. General Korthvul studied the reports from Commander Veltar. On Earth, the humans had not just been watching, they had been learning. Every hegemony military operation for the past 20 years had been observed and studied by human analysts. What about our planned expansion into the Outer Rim territories? General Korthvul asked. The humans know about it, Captain Mexter replied. Their intelligence files contain detailed analysis of our colonization plans, including the timeline and resource requirements. And they have been sharing this information with whom? As far as we can tell, no one. The humans kept their intelligence to themselves. General Korthvul considered this. So they watched us prepare for expansion, but did not warn our potential. Enemies? Correct, sir. They appear to have been purely observational. This was puzzling. Most species would have used such valuable intelligence for political advantage. They would have sold the information or used it to build alliances against the hegemony. But the humans had simply watched and recorded. Perhaps they are truly defensive in nature, General Korthville mused. Or perhaps they are more patient than we assumed. Meanwhile, on the trade world of New Prosperity, the Consortium Council was having its own crisis meeting. Director Quindle had returned from Earth with disturbing news about human knowledge of Consortium operations. They know about the Kepler root problems, Director Quindle reported to the emergency session. They know about the piracy increases and the insurance losses. They know about our negotiations with the Independent Worlds Alliance. Consortium Security Chief Drazen pulled up holographic displays showing trade route security. If they know about our vulnerabilities, why haven't they exploited them? Human ships could have attacked our convoys easily. That's what concerns me, replied Director Quindle. They had the information to damage our operations severely, but they chose not to use it. This suggests either remarkable restraint or extremely long-term planning. The security chief highlighted several trade routes on the display. Our analysis shows that human stealth ships were positioned to monitor these routes for years. They could have intercepted cargo, stolen technology, or disrupted trade at any time. But they didn't, Director Quindle observed. They watched and learned but took no hostile action. What does this tell us about human intentions? Director Quindle's light form shifted to a pattern that indicated deep thought. Either they are genuinely peaceful or they are the most patient strategists we have ever encountered. On the stellar assembly world of Unity Station, Counselor Nixara was presenting her own report to the assembly leadership. The humans' knowledge of assembly operations was even more detailed than anyone had suspected. They intercepted and decoded our diplomatic communications for over 15 years, she reported. They know about our secret agreements with the minor powers. They know about our expansion plans and our military buildup. Assembly Prime Minister Velkoth studied the intelligence reports. Most disturbing is their analysis of our political structure. They understand our internal conflicts better than many assembly members do. The human report accurately predicted the recent disagreement between the core worlds and the rim territories. Counselor Nixara confirmed. Their political analysts saw problems that our own experts missed. How is this possible? Human analytical methods appear to be different from ours, she explained. They look for patterns and connections that we overlook. They see the forest while we focus on individual trees. Prime Minister Velkoth was quiet for a moment. What do they want from us? According to their diplomatic team, they want trade, agreements and technology exchange. They claim to have no territorial ambitions beyond their own solar system. Do you believe them? Counselor Nixara considered carefully. Their actions suggest they are telling the truth. They had the intelligence to disrupt our operations for years, but they chose not to. They watched us make mistakes without taking advantage. Or they were waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Perhaps. But if that was their plan, accidentally revealing their capabilities through a student's homework seems like a poor way to execute it. The most interesting reaction came from the Synthesis Alliance, a confederation of species known for their advanced technology and scientific approach to problems. Alliance Science Director Turan was fascinated by the human intelligence methods. They reverse-engineered our technology without understanding the underlying scientific principles, he reported to the Alliance Council. Then they developed their own versions that work better in some applications. How is that possible? Asked Alliance Premier Zed Kola. Human problem-solving appears to be more intuitive than logical, Turan explained. They see solutions that pure scientific analysis misses. Their engineering is less elegant than ours, but often more practical. Show me examples. Turan activated a holographic display showing human stealth ship designs. They took our cloaking technology and modified it in ways we never considered. The result is less energy efficient but much harder to detect. They made our technology better, they made it different. Sometimes different is better for specific applications. Alliance Premier Zed Cola studied the human designs with growing interest. What else have they improved? Their communication intercept systems are cruder than ours, but more versatile. Their sensor arrays have shorter range, but better resolution. Their analytical software is less sophisticated, but faster. They are not more advanced than us, but they are more creative? That appears to be correct, Turin confirmed. They approach problems from angles we do not consider. Back on Earth, Park Nara was trying to adjust to her new status as the most famous student in human history. Captain Chin Yun-woo of Earth's Deep Space Intelligence Division had offered her a position with the Human Galactic Liaison Team. Your mistake has opened doors that diplomats spent decades trying to unlock, Captain Chun explained as they walked through the secure corridors of Earth Defense Force headquarters. We need people who can think creatively about interspecies relations. But I'm just a student, Nara protested. I don't know anything about diplomacy. You know how to make mistakes that accidentally solve problems, Captain Chun replied with a smile. That's a valuable skill in dealing with galactic politics. They entered a briefing room where Admiral Lee Soong was meeting with representatives from several alien species. The atmosphere was relaxed and friendly, very different from the tense first contact meeting days earlier. Nara, Admiral Lee called out. Come meet Ambassador Kreshtai from the Diplomatic Corps. The ambassador was a tall, graceful being with silver skin and large violet eyes. She smiled when she saw Nara approach. You are the student who changed galactic history, Ambassador Kreshtai said in perfect English. Your professors must be very proud. My professors are still trying to figure out what happened, Nara replied. That makes you perfect for interspecies relations, the ambassador laughed. Half of diplomacy is trying to figure out what just happened and how to make it work in everyone's favor. Admiral Lee gestured for Nara to sit down. We are discussing the timeline for formal diplomatic relations. The galaxy is eager to establish trade agreements with humanity. How eager? Nara asked. Ambassador Kreshtai looked amused. 3 major powers have offered exclusive trade deals. 2 species have proposed military alliances. And the Synthesis Alliance wants to establish joint research programs. All because of my homework mistake? All because your homework mistake revealed that humanity is far more capable than anyone realized, Admiral Lee corrected. The galaxy spent 50 years underestimating us. Now they want to make sure they are on our good side. Captain Ching pulled up a holographic display showing trade route proposals. The economic benefits alone will transform human civilization within a generation. Nara studied the complex web of proposed agreements and partnerships, so my mistake was actually a good thing. Your mistake was the best thing that happened to human galactic relations, Admiral Lee confirmed. We could have stayed hidden for another 50 years and still not achieved what you accomplished in one accidental document submission. Ambassador Kreshtai nodded agreement. Sometimes the most effective diplomacy is completely unintentional. Outside the briefing room windows, the lights of human cities stretched to the horizon. But now those lights represented more than just human civilization. They represented humanity's place in a vast galactic. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy looked completely different. The balance of power that had been stable for centuries was shifting in ways no one had expected. Humanity's emergence as a major galactic power had created new alliances, dissolved old agreements, and forced every species to reconsider their long-term strategies. Foreign Minister Park Jae-in stood in the new Galactic Embassy building in Geneva, looking out at a scene that would have been impossible to imagine. A year earlier, alien diplomats walked through the gardens alongside human officials. Trade representatives from a dozen species negotiated agreements in conference rooms. Cultural exchange students from 3 different worlds attended classes at the nearby university. The morning briefing is ready, Minister, his aide informed. Park Jae-in nodded and walked to the main conference room. The morning briefing had become the most important meeting of each day. Representatives from major galactic powers gathered to coordinate policies and share intelligence. It was unprecedented cooperation. And it was all because of humanity's accidental revelation. Ambassador Kreshtai of the Diplomatic Corps was already seated at the table, along with Hegemony Trade Liaison Dexmar and Consortium Security Coordinator Vashti. These meetings had started as crisis management sessions, but they had evolved into something much more valuable. "Good morning, everyone," Park Jae-in said as he took his seat. "What are today's priority issues?" Ambassador Kreshtai consulted her tablet. "The Outer Rim piracy situation is getting worse. 3 more convoys were attacked this week. Human intelligence services have identified the pirate base locations," Consortium Security Coordinator Veshti added. "But we need coordinated action. To deal with them effectively, this was the new reality. Human intelligence capabilities had become crucial for galactic security. The information gathering systems that had been used to spy on galactic powers were now being used to protect them. Our deep space monitoring network detected unusual fleet movements in the Kepler sector," Park Jae-in reported. "We believe the Syndicate is planning a major operation." The Syndicate was a criminal organization that had been growing more bold in recent months. They seemed to be taking advantage of the political changes caused by humanity's emergence. Hegemony. Trade Liaison Dexmar leaned forward. "Our own intelligence confirms this. The question is whether they are targeting hegemony territory or consortium. Trade routes, why not both?" Ambassador Kreshtai suggested. "The Syndicate may be hoping to take advantage of the shifting political situation." Park Jae-in activated a holographic display showing the current positions of various fleets and SUSPCTD pirate groups. The display combined intelligence from human, hegemony, consortium, and assembly sources. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have been impossible. "Our analysis suggests a 3-pronged attack," he explained. "Simultaneous strikes on the hegemony colony of New Frontier, the consortium trading post at Crossroads Station, and the assembly research facility at Deep Space 7. "When?" Vashti asked. "Within the next week, based on observed preparation patterns." Dexmar studied the display carefully. "If we coordinate our response, we can intercept all 3 attack groups. The hegemony can provide heavy combat ships." He continued, "The consortium can supply fast pursuit vessels. The assembly can contribute sensor and communication support. And humanity can provide intelligence coordination and strategic analysis." Park Jae-in added. Ambassador Kreshtai smiled. 6 months ago, getting these 4 powers to cooperate on anything would have required years of negotiation. Now we are planning joint military operations. "Because we now know we can trust each other with sensitive information," Veshti observed. "Human intelligence sharing has proven accurate and reliable." This was one of the unexpected benefits of humanity's accidental revelation. By demonstrating that they had been gathering intelligence for decades without using it for hostile purposes, humans had proven themselves trustworthy. Other species felt safe sharing their own intelligence with human analysts. The meeting continued for another hour, covering trade disputes, diplomatic issues, and scientific cooperation programs. When it ended, Park Jae-in walked back to his office with a sense of satisfaction. Humanity had found its place in galactic civilization, and that place was more important than anyone had expected. His assistant, Lee Min-hee, was waiting with the afternoon schedule. "You have a meeting with the Synthesis Alliance science team at 2 o'clock, she reported. "They want to discuss the joint research proposal." "Which one?" "All of them. Advanced propulsion, quantum communication, and biological adaptation technology." Park Jae-in smiled. The Synthesis Alliance had been the most eager to work with humanity. They were fascinated by human problem-solving methods and wanted to combine them with their own advanced scientific knowledge. "After that, you have a call with President Yang about the new embassy construction on Hegemony Prime," Lee Min-hee continued. "And at 5, the Trade Consortium wants to discuss exclusive shipping agreements." Every major galactic power was competing for closer relationships with humanity. The species that had once planned to treat humans as junior partners now sought them as equals. Some were offering deals that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. Park Jae-in's communication device chimed with an urgent message. It was from Admiral Lee Soyoung at Earth Defense Force Headquarters. Jayan, we have a situation. The Neutral Zone Authority is requesting immediate assistance with a border crisis. Someone is building unauthorized military installations in disputed territory. Park Jayan sighed. The Neutral Zone was supposed to be a buffer area between major galactic powers, but lately it had become a source of constant problems. Various species were trying to expand their territory while the galaxy was distracted by other issues. Do we know who is responsible? He replied. Human intelligence suggests it's the expansion movement, Admiral Lee responded. They think the current political changes create an opportunity for territorial gains. The expansion movement was a coalition of smaller species that wanted to challenge the dominance of the major galactic powers. They had been quiet for years, but humanity's emergence seemed to have encouraged them to become more aggressive. They probably think the major powers are too distracted by human integration to stop them, Park Jayan mused. That's our assessment. As well, but they are wrong. The cooperation between major powers is stronger now, not weaker. Park Jayan called an emergency meeting of the Diplomatic Coordination Committee. Within an hour, representatives from the Hegemony Consortium Assembly and Alliance were gathered in his office. The expansion movement is testing our resolve, he explained. They think human galactic integration has weakened the existing power structure. They are about to learn otherwise, Hegemony Ambassador Velkoth replied grimly. What do you propose? Asked Consortium Representative Quinrose. Joint response, Park Jayan said. Fast, decisive, and coordinated. We shut down their unauthorized installations and make it clear that the major powers are more united than ever. Human intelligence will coordinate the operation? Assembly Delegate Noxara asked, if you are comfortable with that arrangement. All. The alien representatives nodded. Human intelligence coordination had become the standard for joint operations. Other species trusted human analysis more than their own sometimes. When do we move? Ambassador Velkoth asked. Tomorrow, Park Jayan replied. The longer we wait, the more established their positions become. The operation was planned and executed within 18 hours. Human intelligence provided precise target locations and timing. Hegemony ships provided heavy firepower. Consortium vessels handled logistics and support. Assembly forces managed communications and sensor coordination. The expansion movement's unauthorized installations were neutralized without a single casualty. The message was clear. The major galactic powers were more unified and effective than ever before. That evening, Park Jayan received congratulations from leaders across the galaxy. The successful operation had demonstrated that humanity's integration into galactic civilization was making everyone stronger, not weaker. He walked home through the streets of Geneva, where human and alien citizens now lived and worked together. Children played in parks while their alien babysitters watched. Human students attended lectures given by alien professors. Alien researchers worked alongside human scientists in laboratories. 6 months ago, this scene would have been science fiction. Now it was simply normal life. His phone buzzed with a message from Park Nara, who was now working as a liaison officer with the Galactic Military Academy. She was helping to develop new training programs that combined human strategic thinking with alien military knowledge. Uncle, the message read, I still can't believe my homework mistake changed the galaxy. Park Jayan smiled as he typed his reply. Your mistake didn't change the galaxy, Nara. It revealed what the galaxy was ready to become. He looked up at the night sky, where the lights of alien ships moved among the stars. Humanity had found its place among those stars, and that place was exactly where they belonged. 1 year after the accidental revelation that changed everything, Park Nara stood in the command center of the Human Galactic Intelligence Cooperative. Through the massive windows, she could see the orbital platform stretching into the distance. With ships from a dozen different species docked at various levels, the facility had been built in just 8 months, a joint project between humanity and the major galactic powers. It served as the central hub for intelligence sharing and strategic analysis across known space. Nara still found it hard to believe that her exam mistake had led to all of this. Director Ko will see you now, her assistant informed her. Nara walked through corridors where humans and aliens worked side by side at monitoring stations and analysis consoles. The integration had been remarkably smooth. Different species brought different analytical approaches, and the combination was proving more effective than anyone had expected. Director Ko Sunhee looked up from her desk as Nara entered. Ko had been promoted to head the new cooperative after spending 30 years in Earth's intelligence services. She was one of the few humans who had been preparing for this kind of galactic cooperation long before it became reality. "Sit down, Nara," Director Ko said with a smile. "I have some interesting news." Nara took a seat across from the director's desk. The office had a spectacular view of Earth below, with the moon visible in the distance. Ships moved constantly between the planet and the orbital facilities, carrying goods, people, and information. "The Galactic Council has approved our proposal for the Deep Space Monitoring Network," Director Ko announced. "All major powers will contribute resources to establish early warning stations throughout known space." Nara felt a surge of pride. The Deep Space Monitoring Network had been her idea, developed during her first year as a liaison officer. The concept was to extend humanity's monitoring capabilities across the entire galaxy, creating a shared intelligence system that would benefit everyone. "How extensive will the network be?" Nara asked. "Initial deployment will include 250 monitoring stations," Director Ko replied. "Coverage will extend from the core worlds to the outer rim territories. Every major trade route and political boundary will be monitored, and all powers will have access to the data." "Equal access for all contributors," Director Ko confirmed. "The age of intelligence hoarding is over. Shared information makes everyone safer." This represented a fundamental shift in how galactic civilization operated. For centuries, different species had guarded their intelligence jealously, using information as a tool for gaining advantage over competitors. Humanity's approach of open intelligence sharing had proven so effective that other powers were abandoning their old methods. "There's more news," Director Ko continued. "The Trade Consortium wants to establish a permanent human presence in their territory. They're offering us administrative control of 3 major trade stations." Nara was surprised. Administrative control meant that humans would be managing facilities used by multiple alien species. It was an extraordinary level of trust. "Why are they offering this?" "Because our management methods have proven effective," Director Ko explained. "The joint operations we've conducted have been more successful than anything the consortium achieved on their own. Human organizational skills are apparently valued throughout the galaxy," she added with amusement. Nara's communication device chimed with an incoming message. It was from Captain Chun Hyunwoo, who was currently stationed with the Hegemony Fleet near the border territories. "Nara, you need to see this intelligence report," the message read. "We've discovered something that changes our understanding of galactic history." Director Ko had received the same message. She activated her main display and connected to Captain Chun's location. His face appeared on the screen, looking excited and slightly amazed. "Director Nara, what I'm about to show you will surprise you," Captain Chun began. "We've been analyzing historical data from multiple species, looking for patterns that might indicate unknown threats or opportunities." "What did you find?" Director Ko asked. "We found that humanity is not the first species to use extended observation before making contact," Captain Chun replied. "At least 3 other civilizations used similar strategies in the past." The display changed to show a timeline of galactic history stretching back thousands of years. The Synthesis Alliance spent 2 centuries observing other species before revealing themselves, Captain Chun explained. The Trade Consortium used merchant vessels to gather intelligence for over 100 years before establishing formal diplomatic relations. Even the hegemony conducted covert observations of potential enemies and allies for decades before their expansion period. Nara studied the timeline with growing fascination. So humanity's approach wasn't unusual? It was unusual in its thoroughness and duration, Captain Chun replied. But the basic strategy has been used successfully by most major galactic powers. Director Ko leaned back in her chair. This explains why our revelation was accepted so easily. Other species recognized the strategy because they had used it themselves. Exactly, Captain Chun confirmed. What made humanity different was the quality of our intelligence gathering and analysis. We did it better than anyone else had managed. And we were more patient, Nara added. Most species reveal themselves within a few decades. We waited 50 years, which gave us a much more complete understanding of galactic civilization, Director. Ko observed. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert on the facility's communication system. Director Ko accepted the incoming call, and Ambassador Kreshtai appeared on the display. Director Ko, we have a situation, the ambassador announced. Long-range sensors have detected a large fleet approaching from outside known space. The ships are using technology we don't recognize? This was the scenario that every galactic power had been preparing for, contact with completely unknown civilizations from beyond explored space. How large is the fleet? Director Ko asked. Initial estimates suggest over 300 vessels, Ambassador Kreshtai replied. They're maintaining formation and approaching at sublight speeds? Aggressive or peaceful intentions? Unknown. They haven't responded to any communication attempts. Director Ko immediately activated the emergency protocols that had been developed for exactly this situation. Within minutes, intelligence analysts throughout the facility were gathering and processing information about the unknown fleet. This is why we built the cooperative, Director Ko told Nara. For situations like this. Nara watched as the command center transformed into a hub of coordinated activity. Human analysts worked alongside alien experts, combining different perspectives and approaches to understand the approaching threat. The main display showed the unknown, fleet's position and projected course. The ships were definitely heading toward inhabited space, but their intentions remained unclear. Analysis suggests the ships are scouts rather than an invasion force, reported Kim Tae-hoon, the facility's senior analyst. The formation and approach pattern are consistent with exploration rather than military action. But they're heavily armed, added Turval, a Synthesis Alliance tactical expert. These are not purely peaceful vessels. Heavily armed exploration ships make sense, Nara observed. If they're from beyond known space, they don't know what they might encounter. Director Ko nodded. Continue analysis. I want options prepared for every possible scenario. Over the next 6 hours, the cooperative's analysts developed a comprehensive understanding of the approaching fleet. The ships used advanced but recognizable technology. Their formation suggested careful planning rather than aggressive intent. Most importantly, they were broadcasting identification signals that appeared to be attempts at peaceful contact. Recommendation? Director Ko asked. Cautious engagement, Kim Tae-hoon replied. Send a small diplomatic vessel with full defensive escort. Attempt communication from a safe distance. Which power should take the lead? Ambassador Kreshtai asked. All of them, Nara suggested. Joint response. Show the newcomers that galactic civilization is unified and cooperative. Director Ko smiled. Excellent suggestion. Ambassador, can you arrange a joint diplomatic mission? Already in progress, Ambassador Kreshtai replied. Ships from all major powers are converging on the intercept point. The mission was successful. The unknown fleet turned out to be explorers from a distant region of the galaxy. They had been traveling for decades, searching for other civilizations. When they found evidence of the galactic community, they approached carefully, hoping for peaceful contact. Within weeks, the new species had been integrated into the existing diplomatic and trade networks. Their technology and knowledge added new possibilities for scientific advancement and economic growth. 3 months later, Nara was promoted to Deputy Director of Strategic Analysis. She stood in her new office, looking out at a galaxy that seemed full of infinite possibilities. Her communication device chimed with a message from Dr. Kim Tiemann, her former professor. "Congratulations on your promotion," the message read. "I always knew you were destined for great things, but I never imagined your homework would reshape galactic civilization." Nara smiled as she typed her reply. "Professor, I've learned that the most important discoveries often happen by accident. The key is being prepared to recognize